reports on the latest discoveries.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, scientists and engineers cheered when a vehicle designed to roam across Mars landed last August in an area called the Gale Crater, practically right on target. It was an amazing feat, putting a 1-ton rover the size of a car onto the Martian surface.
And liftoff of
The trip took 8.5 months, and the project cost $2.5 billion. The rover, called Curiosity, has been on Mars for nearly 6 months now, and it is sending back results. High-resolution photos coming from the surface of the planet are like nothing man has ever seen before, and scientists believe they could shed light on whether life ever existed on the fourth rock from the sun.
This tour can rotate around.
At JPL's lab, where a duplicate of Curiosity is used for testing, space scientist and engineer Adam Steltzner says the geologists are fired up over what they can see from 17 cameras mounted on the recently landed rover.
It's fantastic. You know, one thing about putting a rover on the surface of Mars is you get images of the surface that you can never get from orbiters, right? You resolve down to the millimeter level. You get right up close and personal with the Martian terrain. And whenever we do that, we learn new things.
The cracks in the surface indicate where water once flowed. Water, which Deputy Project Scientist Ashwin Vasavada says is essential for life.
We've already made a few discoveries. We sent this rover to discover habitable environments on Mars, and we did discover one already early in the mission. We found that we landed right on an ancient stream bed where water was once flowing kind of up to your kneecaps.
100% sure it was water, the kind of water we have on Earth?
I wouldn't say 100%, but it's the most likely thing. You know, we know that there's water on Mars frozen in ice today, and in the past we think the conditions were more that liquid water could have been stable.
Go. Curiosity is embarking on a new task on Mars after practicing on Earth, drilling into Martian rocks for the first time. Using remotely controlled tools built into the rover, NASA will bore into rocks to find out what they're made of and if they contain clues to life on the red planet.
This whole arm, in sort of in a series of Tai Chi moves, moves around and sieves that powder and then dumps it into some inlets that are on the top of the rover deck so that instruments which are inside the rover can analyze it for its chemistry.
The Mars mission wouldn't have been possible without a safe landing on the red planet by the rover Curiosity.
And the team leader for the lander design was Steltzner, a former rock and roll musician who seems an unlikely hero in this space drama. Today, at 40, he's married with 2 kids, has a home in the suburbs, and holds science and engineering degrees from several top schools. But back in the day, Steltzner was anything but a promising scientist. He was playing drums in a rock band and wasn't paying much attention to school.
I passed geometry with an F+ because the teacher didn't want to see me a second time. Actually, she didn't want to see me a third time.
You were more interested in what?
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll was what I was focusing on in high school. Chasing ladies and just socializing, which was great because what that meant was later on in life when I got interested in really learning about the universe and going to college, I'd got all of that other stuff out of my system and I could really focus.
Steltzner got serious about school and space after looking up at the sky one night.
It was only in my early 20s when I was a little bored with music that I noticed the stars moved in the sky at night, and they were in a different place when I was returning home from playing a gig as they had been when I went out to play the gig.
He decided to take astronomy at Marin Community College in California, but first he had to take physics.
I took that physics course. It blew my mind and really changed the course of my life.
The rest is history. Eventually, he learned to tackle big projects like landing Curiosity on Mars, a vehicle far bigger than previous Mars rovers.
This is huge. It's Titanic. And so when I look at this, I still kind of get goosebumps that we tried to, and evidently succeeded, putting something that big on the surface of Mars.
After discarding a variety of landing models that had been used before, Stelzner's team came up with a complex system where the rover was lowered on tethers from a sky crane made of rockets that then flew away before they could stir up the Martian dust. NASA calls the landing 7 minutes of terror.
Were you terrified?
Yeah, you're definitely terrified. Absolutely terrified. Very gripped. Stomach in knots, staring at the data. And then I actually started to almost be surprised because it was going so smoothly.
But now that the excitement is over, Stelzner has discovered that what appeared to be a perfect landing was actually slightly flawed.
Upon closer inspection, we actually can see places where some luck was involved.
What didn't work as perfectly as you wanted it to?
Well, it ends up being that we needed to understand the local gravity at Mars. We actually landed softer than we had planned.
Slower,
more slowly than we had planned. And that error in the local gravity could easily have had us land faster than we had planned to, and that may have been more challenging for the rover to handle.
More challenging, it could have broken.
It could have broken the rover.
Fook Lee, manager of NASA's Mars exploration program, still calls the landing a success.
We landed safely. It's within the envelope of how we designed the system to do, but we still want to go back to the data and see what we can learn for the next time.
Next time may be 2020. That's when NASA recently announced it is planning another trip to Mars in a vehicle that will be similar to but cheaper than Curiosity. The principal aim, says Lee, is to continue the long search for signs of life.
The question is, could Mars have been habitable? And if so, did life arise? And frankly, some of these measurements that we're making might be eventually be useful for human explorer that will be going to Mars one day.
Stelzner has other heavenly bodies in his sights. He wants to design new landers that could touch down on a comet and on Europa, a moon of Jupiter.
This is an ice moon of Jupiter's that we believe has a liquid water ocean, and we think is the most likely place in the solar system to have life today. So I'd like to put a lander on the surface of Europa and see what we find.
You really think there might be life on Europa?
I'm not an exobiologist, but I know some exobiologists. I drink beer with exobiologists, and those exobiologists think that Europa is a great source, a great potential source for existent life today. The life would be down underneath the ice in this liquid ocean, warmed by the tidal action of Jupiter.
Mission Director Lee says NASA is studying the idea the recent proposed budget cuts could kill it. So far, Curiosity has not turned up any evidence of past or present life in Martian dirt. But NASA will have plenty to analyze from the rover over the next few years. Eventually, scientists want to bring back to Earth a soil or rock sample so they could analyze it in a real lab. It's unclear if the 2020 mission will include that capability.